Stumbling out of the darkness of the medieval world, humanists and artists united to overturn the outlook of the world. As Europe stepped into the light of a new rebirth during the late 14th to 16th century, art enhanced society greatly by giving people something to look and marvel at while living their everyday lives. These world-shattering innovations brought together a unique combination of science and art that caused the emergence of many great artistic works throughout the Renaissance, many of which can be still seen today.
Art really shifted the worldview at this time. Before, art would be dull and repetitive and about one topic because they just wanted the painting to be about religion and the church. But in the Renaissance, that all changed dynamically. In the medieval times, art was not detailed, 3D, proportional, or realistic. For example, the painting of baby Jesus and Mary is very unproportional. Mary is much taller than the people standing on the ground, and baby Jesus is a lot bigger than a regular baby. Also, if you look at their faces, they don't look quite right because their eyes and noses are too large and they aren't positioned right. However, artists such as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo wanted to change the way art looked. Since they believed people could relate more easily to realistic art, they discovered proportion and perspective, so therefore artwork could more strongly influence anyone who looked at them. Artists really stressed the beauty of the human body, especially Leonardo, who dug up dead bodies to study their structure. Artists wanted to do this because it showed everyone that the world and humans are actually beautiful. The subjects of painting changed as well. Artists used to paint about religion and God because that's what people thought were most important. However, in the Renaissance times, they started to paint portraits of people to show humanism, which spread the idea that man was the center of the world, not God. As more people viewed these paintings, they started to think beyond the church, and many more inventions and new ideas were made. For example, the printing press allowed books to be published about these new ideas, and no longer was the Bible the only book. Also, these new books were written in many different languages, which spread new ideas around the world.
Art in the Renaissance was becoming more popular and well looked upon by many of the citizens. This occurred because the paintings had messages in them and meanings that were relevant to events in the Renaissance. By this we mean that as each day and event occurred in the Renaissance, artists became more inspired. Therefore, they used these events as their main topic to paint. An example of what they painted was religion and humanism. In the early years of the Renaissance, the Catholic Church was at its peak economically by preaching the Word of God. The church was a popular group funding artists for their beautiful creations. Because this was the only thing happening at the time, it was very common for artists to paint about religion, making patronage change art in themes and motives. When the discredit of the church began a little bit later in the Renaissance, it changed the ideas artists had to paint about. When people began to believe in humanism, artists turned to that as their inspiration, making their pictures more formal and simple, like a woman sewing, for example. Although spirituality was still looked upon, individuality was becoming more known and popular. As Roman and Greek ways made their way into Europe, artists began to paint pictures on ancient Greek myths dedicated to the gods and goddesses, because those myths represented a great deal of individuality, which is exactly what they were trying to portray in their paintings. Art and artists emerged through the Renaissance by the support of individuals and groups. Because art was recognized by portraying relevant events, it made it a popular thing to have and look at. Art also emerged just plainly by the love people had from its uniqueness. As the Renaissance expanded and emerged in technology, economy, and wealth, merchants and explorers were trying to succeed in getting famous. Doing something worthy of being known in history was a large challenge, so the merchants and explorers did the second thing they thought would allow them to be remembered. They got portraits made up of them by artists that were well known for their work. The explorers and merchants paid a great deal of money for this to be done, making the artists' paintings to emerge by the popularity and growth in wealth as well.
With new art came more tensions. These tensions were the ones held between the church and the new artistic techniques. The themes of art diverged on other topics, such as people and humanism. And because of this, the church got angry since art wasn't about religion. Also, many statues such as David were being sculpted in the nude, which showed great knowledge as to how the body worked. However, churches thought this had a homosexual element and disapproved of the way the new art looked. Also, new techniques in art made churches angry, because the new thoughts led to more independent thinking and skepticism of the church, which took power away from them, and the church now had less authority over the people. The public started to accuse the church of scamming others because the church promised to to put loved ones in heaven for a price. However, that wasn't necessarily true. So we know how art changed their worldview during the Renaissance, but how did art contribute to the current Western worldview? The new form of art has influenced us in many ways. For example, ideas and structures are still used today as an inspiration for new designs. The arc, dome, and flying buttress were architectural motifs that were first used by the Romans. Important Western architectural motifs include the Doric, Corinthian, and Ionic columns, and also the Romanesque, Gothic, Baroque, and Victorian styles, all of which are still widely recognized and used in today in the West. Many instruments and dance styles originated from the West, and if the art from the Middle Ages had never changed into Renaissance art, these ideas and creations would never have been thought of.
Most topics and paintings were still similar to what they were in the Renaissance time, and not many artists today paint only about religion in their church. Almost all current paintings are realistic and show the 3D details of the exquisiteness among us, whether it is man or nature.